planning an outdoor adventure, it's not only cliffs, animals, and insects you should be worried about. The world is covered in plants, and science has even discovered that plants can communicate with each other. Some plants can cause heart failure, upset stomachs, or even lung damage when ingested. But today we are going to focus on poisonous plants you should never touch. The manchineel tree. Located mostly in tropical regions, the manchineel tree is the most deadly tree in the world. The trees are usually marked with signs to warn tourists and locals of the harmful side effects from touching or even standing under it. Every part of the tree is toxic, and if you come into contact with the sap of the tree, it can cause rashes, dermatitis, and painful temporary blindness. The most famous victim of this deadly tree is Ponce de Leon, who was struck in the thigh by an arrow laced with the manchineel sap. He later died from his wounds. Windflower. The windflower is a spring blooming plant that is most commonly found in Europe. Though it is very common in gardens, it's a pretty toxic plant. The windflower would have to be eaten in mass quantities to be of harm when ingested. It is warned that the plant sap contains a toxic chemical called protoanemone, which can cause harm to the skin. So if you are handling this plant, it's advised to wear gardening gloves. Poison sumac. A cousin to poison ivy, poison sumac is located along the Mississippi River and southern states of the U.S. The leaves of this plant are said to cause rashes that are more itchy and blistering than poison oak and ivy. People should be warned to not use this plant for burning because the smoke carries toxic oil. The oil from the smoke in rare occasion can cause lungs to fill with liquid and can cause someone to die from suffocation. Stinging spurge. The stinging spurge, also known as mala mujer or bad woman, calls southern Arizona home. The dark green leaf of this plant resembles that of a maple leaf. Unlike the maple leaf, the stinging spurge has white dots scattered across the leaves, and each white dot has a hair or stinger in its center. The plant also has a stinger on its stem, so touching it would be a dire mistake. The hairs can penetrate skin and inject its toxic sap. The after effects leave you with dermatitis and a burning sensation that can last for days. Giant hogweed. Known as Britain's most dangerous plant, the giant hogweed has become an epidemic in the UK. Many people aren't even aware of what the plant looks like. It can grow up to 20 feet tall, and the sap is what makes it so toxic. If someone brushes against the plant or touches the leaves, they will be met with extreme burning and blistering. The sap also makes skin sensitive to sunlight and can cause you to burn even months after being healed of the blisters. Because of its height, sap from this plant can get into the eyes and cause blindness. This plant is an all-around nightmare. Poison ivy. If you've been camping in North America, then there is a good chance you have been warned about poison ivy. This plant is common throughout North America and grows in open fields, riverbanks, and wooded areas. They can be identified by their signature leaf arrangement of clusters that have 3 leaflets. An oily resin called eusurial causes rashes from poison ivy. The crazy thing about this substance is that it can remain and be active in all parts of the plant, even after it's died. It only takes contact the size of a grain of salt to cause rashes in 80 to 90% of people. Stinging nettles. Stinging nettles are actually located all over the world. You may have already experienced its burning sting. Scientists have revealed the components in its burning venom, which consists of histamine, acetylcholine, and serotonin. When someone brushes against stinging nettles, its hairs break off and a cocktail of chemicals are released into the base of the hair, which causes the sting. Though the sting from these plants doesn't last too long, they can still cause burning and itching for hours. Cashew nut tree. The cashew nut is one of the most popular nuts throughout the USA and Europe, but many don't know the dangers that come with harvesting them. The cashew nut has 2 layers that contain cardol and anacardic acid, both of which are known to cause burns so bad that they can be classified as second-degree burns. Cashews are processed in India, and women who work the processing plants have permanent skin damage on their hands due to contact with the plants and no access to gloves. Though it is uncommon that anyone outside of India or Vietnam will come into contact with the plants, it's better to remain safe than sorry. Blinding tree. This tree got its name because it will literally blind you. The chemicals that are in the latex that protects the leaf of the plant can cause temporary blindness and can also leave your skin with burns and permanent damage. The blinding tree is common in India and Australia and also goes by blind your eye mangrove because it resembles mangrove trees. People are also warned not to ingest or burn this plant because you can become sick, and the fumes from the smoke can cause blindness as well. Gympie. Another reason why it seems like everything in Australia wants to kill you is the presence of the gympie plant. This tree is the most poisonous of all the Australian stinging trees. The stinging hairs of the gympie can leave you burning for hours, days, weeks, or even months. In one case, a man had reoccurring stings that lasted for 2 years after initial contact with a gympie. The fun thing about this plant is you don't even have to touch it. Just standing around it for longer than an hour can do the trick. The gympie tree's stinging hairs are easily shed by blowing wind and can be an unexpected attack if you aren't careful. Have you ever encountered any of these plants in the wild? We hope this video helped you figure out what to watch out for.